we'll start off here by looking at the cosine rule, okay? So the cosine rule, so far we've looked at trigonometry, we've looked at the angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. We've looked at right angle triangles, so if you have a right angle triangle, you can use Pythagoras' theorem, you can use trig ratios. If you have a triangle, you can find the area of a triangle using half AB sine C. The sine rule we just completed, and that was A over sine A is equal to B over sine B. And now we're going to look at the cosine rule. Once we have the cosine rule done, then we're more or less finished with each topic in trigonometry. And after that, we'll start looking at exam papers and we'll see how these topics can be interlinked into different questions. And you would have seen that the last question we did, we had to use areas of a triangle, or angles in a triangle equal 180. We used the area of a triangle and we used the sine ratio. So you'll see that when we move on to the next level. So the important thing is that you're able to fully understand each of these individual topics as we work through them, right? So the one that we're working on today is the cosine rule. Okay. So first things first is what is the cosine rule, and what the cosine rule is, it's just another way of finding an unknown side or an unknown angle, right? And the cosine rule is the longest of all the ones that you're doing. So it's A squared is equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. Okay, so that's the cosine rule there. It's in your log tables, so you don't actually need to learn it off or anything. It's in the log tables, but it's actually an easy one to learn because you say the side squared, A squared, is equal to B and C. They're both being squared and added. Then they're both being times, and then you're getting the cosine of the angle that you started with. But once you start using this, you'll get used to it, right? So it's the same as everything that we've done before. When you're dealing with the cosine rule, typically the idea of working with the cosine rule is when you have two sides and an angle and you're looking for the other side, right? So all the work that we've done so far should help you here because you should be able to label this, right? So in this case, we have the angle. So the angle we're going to label first, and the angle in this case is going to be A. So opposite the angle is side A. And then the other two sides, B and C, it doesn't matter which one they are. So you can put B here and you can put C here. Okay. So once you label your triangle correctly, it's very similar to what we did with trig ratios. Once you label the triangle correctly, the rest is just substitution. So we'll just sub in those values there. So A squared is going to be A squared, obviously, because that's not changing. A is A squared equals B squared. So instead of B squared, I'm going to put in 14 to be squared plus C squared. So instead of C, I'm going to put in 9 to be squared minus 2 times B. In this case, B was 14, so I'm going to put 14 in there instead of B. I'm going to put in C next, which is 9. And I'm multiplying that by the cos of the angle A. And the angle A, I can see there, is 76. Okay, so just to recap on that, you have to make sure you label your triangle correctly. And when I say that, always label the angle that you're looking for A. So the angle that we have in this case is A. So I label that A. So the side opposite A is obviously going to be lowercase a. And then side B and C, it doesn't matter what way they go, okay? Because I'm going to be adding them. So it doesn't matter if I say 9 plus 14. So if I put them the other way, it wouldn't matter. And I'm going to be timesing them. So if I times them, 14 times 9 is the same as 9 times 14. So it doesn't matter which one is B and C. The important one is just A. Okay. Subbing in the values, I put A in instead of A. I put 14 in for B. I put 9 in for C. And obviously I did the same there for B. I put in 14. For C, I put in 9. And for the angle A, I put in 76. Next step is just to tidy it up. So A squared is still A squared. You need to work out what each of these are. So 14 squared is 196 plus 9 squared will be 81 minus 2 times 14 times 9 times cos of 76 will give us minus 60.9643176.9. I'm just going to highlight that there just so you're aware of what's happening. It looks complicated, but it's all just done by the calculator. So just to look back and see, 14 squared is 196, so that's easy. Plus 9 squared is 81, so 9 times 9 is 81. And then I'm going to subtract, so if I subtract 2 times 14 times 9 times cos 76, so this is the number times the number times the number. This represents the number, so if you type all that into your calculator, you will get 60.964 31769. So we're almost there. The next step is to tidy it up. So a squared will be equal to, if we add all those terms, so multiply by minus 1. Okay, so if we add all them, 196 plus 81, take away that, you get an answer of 216.0356.823. So in order to get A, what you need to do, here you can see what I'm doing to A is I'm squaring it. So to get the inverse square or the opposite square, it's the square root. So 216.0356.823. And if we get the square root of that, it'll give us the square root of your answer, which is 14.698.15234. Now, what I'm going to do, just for the sake of rounding, because people are still making mistakes at rounding, I'm going to round this to I'll say, in this case, I'll say 3 decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to round this to 3 decimal places. So I'll go back 1, 2, and 3. I'll draw an imaginary line. I look at the number that follows. So my answer there will be 14.698, and that is units. Okay, so we don't have centimeters, we don't have meters, so we'll just say units. The reason why that ended up being 698 is because 1 is less than 5. If the number is less than 5, then we just round it off. If this number was greater than 5, or if it was 5 or greater, then I'd have to round this up. Okay, so that's the first one with the cosine rule. This is the cosine rule when you're finding a missing side. You can imagine that there's also going to be a cosine rule where you're finding a missing angle. So we'll do that one next.